The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Jazzabrations and Beyond. I'm your host, Linda Morgan, and my co-host right here,
Torre, Brannon and Reese.
That's right. We have been off for last Sunday because the Super Bowl just knocked us out of our spot, but we are here today.
What a Super Bowl.
It is. I know, huh?
I didn't like it.
I know. That was crazy.
For a lot of reasons.
You know what? The Rams, y'all did a good job. You at least made it.
Well,
most people don't even want to give the Rams credit that they made it.
Being from New Orleans, I was already. I was already done before it was.
Oh,
there.
I know. Yes, the New Orleans Saints got robbed. Yeah. We know. We heard the story. But we're here today, y'all, on this Sunday afternoon, and we're going to have some guests on the second half of the show because this is African American Appreciation Month, and we are talking about the Pan-African Film Festival.
It's right here.
It is here, y'all. It is
right
here. So we are going to talk about it. There's the flyers going on from February the 7th through the 18th. My brother Yuko Babu, I'm giving you a shout out and you don't even know it today. So we're here because you're going to tell us something about...
Something else. I'm going to tell you where the Pan-African Film Festival came from.
Right. He's going to give us the roots.
Everything black. I'll tell you where everything black
Everything black. See, I'm glad I got me a historian, a real African-American historian as my host. He can help fill me in on a lot of things that I have not up on.
Well,
so where are we going to start?
Let's start with 1915.
1915, y'all.
Yeah, there was a movie called The Birth of a Nation. And that movie, The Birth of a Nation, was the first epic film ever produced in American history. I think the film was over 3 hours long. It was directed by a man named D.W. Griffith. And after that film came out, there were riots in America. The film depicted black people as greedy, selfish, people who were dishonest, who were corrupt, etc. The movie was a total fabrication, lies. And there were white actors in blackface playing black characters.
Oh, okay.
That movie was the first film shown in the White House. And it was something that gave more energy to white supremacists. So the KKK, who had been dormant to a large degree, were able to revive their membership behind that film. So film has always been critical to black people in reality, in our real lives. Film has been, very important. And so, efforts like the Pan-African Film Festival and others that preceded it, like people who began to make movies for us back in those days, like Oscar Micheaux and others. I consider him the father of black film, Oscar Micheaux. And so we saw a need to create our own images, to shape our own narrative where it concerns
our own
story. Exactly. So as we talk about the Pan-African Film Festival, there were antecedents and things that preceded that film festival that gave birth to it, And even the little small film festival I do.
I've known Rivers in November.
Right. So it's critical that we understand that we're not just looking at nothing. When we go to see a film, it depicts real life, even if it's a fantasy. Fantasy is born from real experiences. And so we have to pay attention to our images and the things that we project as we make films and write books and stuff like that. Yeah.
Music.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah. So, we often say that, Barack Obama is just first president. But the thing is that there were, for instance, I don't know if you remember the Richard Pryor show. You remember that show?
Yes.
He had a little show back in the 70s for like 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it was.
Before they took him off.
Right. And there was the one scene where he played the black president.
Right.
And it was funny. Richard had a way of being funny but being serious. At the same time. Because what he was telling us is that if we ever elect a black president, he's going to catch hell. Right? He told us in a funny way where we laughed. But, that portrayal, and then there were others that we could name, kind of opened the door for a Barack Obama Bill Cosby show, which proved that blacks can become mainstream superstars.
Correct.
Preceded Barack Obama. And then we had the ascendancy of Oprah Winfrey as an international icon, and so nothing happens by osmosis. All of these phenomenons that we enjoy today had their start somewhere.
Correct.
And so I'm very proud of the Pan-African Film. I think it's in its 27th year now.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, and so, we have to celebrate that. I'm glad to see it's continuing to grow and develop. And I intend to go, actually tonight, to see a talk by Nate Parker.
Oh, yeah.
By Nate Parker. And the last thing I'll say on this is that, you said it's from
7th to the 18th.
To the 18th.
Till next Monday.
So we've got some time. But Nate Parker, to me, is an important figure now because of what happened to him. Because, his film that was, to me, about one of the most important figures in black history, Nat Turner, was basically killed off, and they fooled a lot of black people. When I say they, I think you know who I'm talking about, and it's not just white people. But, his film was basically killed off. It could have won all kind of awards, etc. But we bought into another narrative that pitted us against each other. And it's at hopefully if I get a chance to talk today after the second part, I'll talk about the reasons why the West African empires collapsed, why they rose and why they fell, and how that opened us up for the transatlantic slave trade, which led to our being here. And instead of me being called Nkrumah, I'm Bob or Tom. You're Linda.
I'm Linda, but I'm Ndidi. I don't know what about you. I am Ndidi, which means patience.
All right. And
that's my name.
I renamed myself too.
Exactly. Yeah, I am a Yoruba.
There you go. There you go.
From Nigeria.
Yeah. So are you going to the Pan-African this year?
Yes. That's why I'm in my garb.
Oh, okay.
This was my induction. Well, actually, this is my honey shirt, but my dress was made with the same material.
Okay. You're looking good. You're looking sharp then.
So, yes, we will go today and visit some of the vendors. I always wait until February to spend my money with all the black vendors that come here from all abroad.
I got this there last year.
Yes.
So I'm celebrating 1 year with this piece.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, I always go, and I make it a point to go and spend money.
Right.
For this whole 2-week period.
Right.
I save up just for this. Because I don't shop in December. I don't do Christmas. That's some pagan holiday. I don't do that. So I wait till February. So I will be shopping my little credit card off.
So you do have a little revolutionary in you, huh?
Just a little. Well, I come from the school of George Fraser, which is investing in us.
Yeah. That's
in hiring us and being about us. I'm very pro-black. Don't get it twisted.
All right.
I may look like I'm all about everything, but I definitely got that in me.
Well, here's an opportunity for us to show what we've been talking about, to us to actually actualize some of the things we talk about. When we go to the Pan-African Film Festival, it's an event that was created by African people, black people. Most of the films, I think probably 100% of the films, all about the black experience.
Exactly.
And it can only inspire us to want to do more. We were talking earlier today at my spiritual center about, the fact that as an artist, a lot of us have to go outside of our community to make money. Not just artists, but many of us who are in business in some way, shape, or form. And it's okay, wherever you make your money from is cool, but you'd like to be able to see the people support the artist.
Correct.
Like you're an artist in the sense that
Ooh, Lordy, please don't take me down the road of this jazz and blues. I can't do it in African American Appreciation Month, y'all. I can't go there right now. But yes, it is very much. It's a conversation. It definitely is a conversation.
So the question is why, right? Why are we at the point where we feel as black artists that we can't make a living in our own communities? Like we have to go outside. Now, back in the days, let me go back. There's a documentary on Netflix right now about the life of Sam Cooke.
Okay.
Sam is my favorite artist of all time. Not only because of the way that he sung a song, and how great an entertainer he was, but he had a sense of business about himself. Sam found out that the record company was ripping him off, and he sued the record company, RCA, and got his master recordings, got the rights to his master recordings. And he subsequently opened his own record label, started his own record label and his own publishing company. And that was a little much to be doing for a brother back in the 50s and 60s. There were people who weren't happy about that. The documentary explains what happened.
Oh, that's a good one.
Watch it. That's a good one. It's called, I think it's called The Two Killings of Sam Cooke. Like, he was, unfortunately, he was actually assassinated at the age of 33. He was good friends with Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay, who became Muhammad Ali, and Jim Brown, people like that. And Dr. King. Sam was, not afraid to go beyond what you thought an artist should do. He was not
speak out.
Yeah, he was not going to confine himself to, I'm just a singer. No, I'm a singer. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a mentor. I'm a social activist. He wouldn't perform in places that were segregated. He said, look, I'm out here singing, right? And you're going to put my people way in the back, and I'm supposed to be happy. I'm supposed to get on stage and smile. He wasn't having it. But his life is an example of how we came out of that Jim Crow era. And when artists would go and perform back in those days, you remember the term Chitlin Circuit? Yes,
I've heard about it.
You know what the Chitlin Circuit was?
No, not really, but I've heard about it.
Well, you know what chitlins are, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. As long as you know it's chitlins are.
I do know what it's
You kind of give you an indication.
I don't eat them, but I do know.
It gives you an idea of what we're talking about.
I know about
Chitlin Circuit was that collection of venues that black artists had to play. And it was also the places that we used to, stay, because we couldn't stay in those big time Hilton hotels.
I know.
Yeah, so we had to stay at these sometimes little, shacks and stuff like that. And we'd perform on stage in some of the nice places. Then after we got off the stage, we had to go out the back door, and we couldn't stay in some of the hotels and motels.
That's true. So true.
So they call it the Chitlin Circuit. There are places around this country that were considered Chitlin Circuit venues, like the Apollo, the Regal Theater in Chicago, and there are other theaters around, and the nightclubs and stuff like that. But ironically, if we look back at that time, even though we were segregated, it seemed that we had a little bit more going on in terms of business.
You know what? That is so true. And George Fraser just did a piece on the state of Black America. And George is 73 years young. Mm-hmm. And he talked about this generation kicking day A. Mm-hmm. He said because his grandfathers and fathers did more with what they had than what we have today. We need our A's kicked. Mm-hmm. Because there's more professors, there's more educators, there's more, 10 times the amount of what we had then for us to be in this shape that we are in today, which is, let me just go like this, because Black history for me is just not 28 days. And it's hard to wrap a whole lot of emotions around just 28 days. Mm. When we go through stuff 365 days a year.
Right.
And so while I celebrate our heritage and our Blackness, I think we need to really get over the fact that this 28 days is all geared up to be. You know what I mean? Not to...
Well, it's what we make it. I think,
we can celebrate it, but damn, we 365 days we Black.
We use it as a springboard to
to highlight stuff. I get it.
At the school where I'm at, where I work, the kids didn't have a Black History program per se. And one of the kids stood up and said, well, see a man, be a man is Black History year round, because we talk about it all the time.
Correct.
We're not going to allow, ourselves to confine our history to 1 month.
Correct.
It's a part of the curriculum throughout the lifeblood of the the teachings that we do. So, no, we're not. But let's take Black History Month and make it what we want it to be, and make it work for us. And some people need it more than others, right? Some of us need to be reminded that we're Black, if you know what I mean.
Right. And some of us need to be able to capitalize off of it much more than it's happening. But that's a whole. We're here to be positive. I'm here to be uplifted because African American Appreciation Month is here, 28 days for y'all to celebrate. Mm-hmm. With that, we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back with you here on Jazzabrations and Beyond. Linda Morgan.
Torre. Peace.
Be right back.
sentimental mood. I can see the stars come through my room, while your loving attitude lights up a flame that lights the gloom on the wings of every kiss. Drifts a melody so soft and sweet in this sentimental bliss. You make my paradise so complete. Rose petals seem to fall, it's all like a dream to call you mine. Ooh, my heart's a lighter thing since you made this night a thing divine. In a sentimental mood, I'm within a world so heavenly, and I never dreamt that you'd be loving sentimental me.
Welcome back, y'all. Welcome back.
Greetings.
As always, y'all can call us if y'all want to. 323-293-3375. We'll take your calls and conversation. We are up in here today. We're talking about the Pan-African Film Festival and everything beyond. Because Torre is an excellent history.
A student of history.
History.
Yes.
But you got it down. So I'm soaking it in and taking it in. So today I'm just going to be here and take it and soak it all in. So I'll just add my little ad-libs to give you a little color. As y'all can see, I have on my red and black outfit that I wore at my induction because my name is Ndidi. Ndidi is my name, and that means patience. So I'm very patient. A little
splash of green right there. That red, black, and green.
Yes. Give me a sash to stand for the colors. Yeah. But yes, so you wanted to tell us something about...
Yeah, I have this book here. I don't know if we can get a shot of it. But
yeah, I see it.
It's one of the seminal documents in black history, I would say literary history. And it's a book written by John Hope Franklin, whose father was a resident of the township. I guess we call it township back in those days.
Is that why John Hope Bryan is named John Hope Bryan?
I don't know.
John Hope.
I'm not quite sure. But this brother here was one of the great historians in American history. And his father was a lawyer. He was the lawyer who helped to litigate the cases during the Tulsa race riots in 1921. Okay. So he comes from that kind of history. And this book is one of the books that you have to read if you're going to take African American history here. Studies here in this country. And so on the 24th of this month, at 11 a.m. at Carras African Spiritual Center at 78th and Western Avenue. I'll be lecturing, and the title of my lecture is 1619 to 2019. So we're at that 400-year period now. I don't know whose phone that is here. And we're going to talk about the 400-year sojourn that we've had here, Africans in America, and all that means.
1619 to
1619 to 2019. That's 400 years.
Oh, this is our 400 years.
This is our 400 year. That's right. Right here.
That's why. Okay, duh, Linda. Everybody been talking about 400 years and different projects coming up. 400 years. We are in our 400th year
Right.
Don't act like I'm the only one out there that didn't put the two pieces together. That 2019 was the year. So this is education for all of us.
Right. So I'm going to talk about, 1619, but I'm going to start with a discussion about the West African empires, Mali, Ghana, Songhai, and why those empires rose and why they fell. And so I think in that discussion, we'll find some of the reasons why we were open to becoming quote unquote slaves. Right. And we've been struggling ever since. We've done some beautiful things. I think we've shown a resiliency that is something that's unmatched in human history. So it's not a downer. It's not a time or a lecture where you're going to walk out feeling, oh, man, them people sure been beating up on us. No, it's going to really be about the triumph that we've been able to experience. Yeah, and the empowerment, because we've come through a lot. We've got somewhere to go, but we've come through a lot in those times. And so in 1619, the first 20 Africans arrived in Jamestown, Virginia, on a Dutch ship. And those first 20 Africans were not slaves; they were indentured servants.
Wow.
Yeah, and people don't really realize that we were not always slaves here,
no,
even here.
We're kings and queens. I got you.
Yeah,
I know
go back
that.
far enough. Yeah,
And somebody is calling us and want to know about what we're talking about here on the line.
Okay.
Who's on the phone with us?
Well, do you know I'm on the line? I'm sitting here.
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. I was listening to this, and I agree with you. What I wrote was, you want to hear what I wrote?
Oh, you wrote something online, ma'am? On
I
Facebook?
sure did. I'm with you, Linda.
Okay.
Linda Jazzabrations and Torre. Our history is all year long and beyond.
Yes, ma'am. It sure is. This is my good friend Joycelyn Tomlin talking on the line with us. Thank you, ma'am, for calling in.
And then I just want to say something about a historical.
And you need to turn your computer down because it's echoing, ma'am.
Sure.
But that's all right. Go right ahead. Come on.
I just want to say part of the history. I just want everybody to remember Tuskegee Airmen. That's part of that history.
That's
absolutely.
Right. That's a beautiful part of it.
1941.
That's right.
And I have to tell you about the story about the man who told me 1932, his great-grandfather preceded the Tuskegee Airmen and made the way for them. But I'll have to introduce you to him on Monday. So remind me.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, the Tuskegee. As a matter of fact, the Tuskegee have their own day, you guys. It's the last Thursday in March. The state capital of California has designated the fourth Thursday in March to Tuskegee Day.
Beautiful.
And we will be going to Sacramento and celebrate.
Right. That's beautiful. And
well, thank you so much, Joycelyn, for calling in.
You're welcome.
All righty. See you later.
Nice to hear your voice. And that's what we have to do. We have to focus on some of the great things that we've done.
That's right.
And one of the things I'm going to talk about among the topics that day is the Haitian Revolution.
Yes, sir.
You know, when you talk about the Haitian Revolution, you're talking about the most significant uprising of human beings in world history. And not only did they rise up, but they became a republic. They didn't just free themselves from the enslavement of the French. They were able to create a nation. And if we don't study Haiti, we won't really understand the relationships we are having now with other people. And you know, the fact that I'm from New Orleans, I have a deep appreciation for Haiti because Haiti is what led to the Louisiana Purchase, which is the most significant land swap or sale in the history of this country. It's really what made America America.
Right.
You know, the Louisiana Purchase, 1803. And so, were it not for the Haitian Revolution, Napoleon would never have feared enough to sell that land to America, to Thomas Jefferson, who was president at the time. So these are the kind of things I'm going to talk about because we say 400 years, you know, and we got Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey, and all that's cool, but we have some very significant things that we've done that point to our ability to build nations and to change history.
It is so you know, my spirit just downloaded to me. Mm-hmm. The reason this is our 400th year. Do you know how much more racism is happening because of this? Just in the news, this whole thing about Gucci putting the blackface, all this stuff is coming out.
The governor of Virginia.
All this blackface stuff, all of a sudden is just coming out like it's just nothing. They putting it on sweaters, making sweaters of it. They just boldly just saying, oh, it's 400 years. We need to remind them of what happened.
It's being revealed. It's never gone anywhere.
It's never gone.
Right.
But they're now like in our face.
Right.
Y'all been buying my Gucci all these years. Now, let me see if you're going to buy this. Right. I'm so glad I'm not a Prada, Gucci, Louis Vuitton chick. Right. Never have been, never will be. Right. So now all the ones who have been, ha to you. Because now that's what they're saying to you. Give me your money, but this is what I'm going to show you.
Yeah. Well, Malcolm said it's one thing to boycott somebody else's product. It's another thing to build your own product.
Correct.
So we can boycott them, but then it'll be another one next year and another one the year after that. And we have to get to the point where we get back to what we were doing the West African empires, which was building and producing our own. And until we do that, we're going to always be mad at somebody else. I'm not interested in being angry at anyone.
No, I'm not angry.
So not you. I'm not talking about you. I know you got yourself together.
I ain't never bought him. I'm just like,
yeah. Well, Gucci, I don't even think about it,
But that's what it was just in the news. And so the heightened awareness of the fact that we're talking about our 400 years, it's now, I see it now all around. There's this heightened awareness for other people to just bring out this uncharacterization of us.
Yeah.
To put that in front of, because they're in the media outlets, to overshadow. If you think about it, they're trying to overshadow the fact that it's our 400 years celebration. Is it a celebration, y'all, in the audience? I'm not really sure. Are we celebrating 400 years? Or why are we not making it more of a bigger impact? Because I think everybody on Facebook needs to get a 400-year profile picture. I'll start the movement. Somebody create a 400-year profile photo for Facebook. And I got about 65 to 80 pages that I will put it up on. And let's see if we really want to talk about celebrating our 400 years. That's just one little small thing in terms of social media. Because they are trying to, I see that they are trying to do something different with all these news stories about blackface and this. I was wondering, where is all this coming from? Now, today, I get my education in history about it.
Well, what happened in particular with the Virginia thing is that, Virginia, again, that's where I'm starting with my lecture in Jamestown, Virginia. So Virginia has always been a hotbed for white supremacy and racism. Charlottesville last year, and you saw the reaction of the president. I don't even call him president. I don't really know what he is.
45 minus 1. But 46 minus 1.
But so it's not a mistake that all this stuff is coming out in Virginia.
No, it's not.
The brothers caught right up in the middle of it.
They always gotta keep it, make an example, y'all. They always gotta have us, one of us.
Where it throws some shade in the game, it further.
And his have to be around some sexual misconduct.
So he's supposed to resign right away, right? I mean, they just came out and said something. He's supposed to resign, but the governor's like, I ain't going nowhere. And they're telling him.
And you hold on, brother, right there with the governor.
Yeah, I say, don't resign until he resigns.
Exactly. You go out, in handcuffs together if you're going to go out.
There you go. Because, I mean, what's worse, racism or sexism? That's a question for you.
Wow. There is so much, and it didn't even dawn on me that this is why. There's so much in the news. Yeah. There's so much in print, and there's so much on social media that's really just pumping this all up. But we ain't going to feed into y'all foolishness.
Well,
we're not.
As we celebrate, we learn. We're learning. What are we celebrating, right? Are we celebrating the fact that we survived something, or are we celebrating the fact that we accomplished?
We're still here, I guess.
Well, we're more than just here. It's like you got this radio program, and it's not by osmosis. You made this happen because you were determined to do something and to speak for people
to have a platform. That's right.
You have a platform. That's power. That's power. And that's really what we're about.
That's right.
That's really what
we're going to lift this up. I'm going to start a movement. I'm not playing. Y'all know if I say something to put it in the universe, I'm going to do it. So somebody, Letitia, I'm going to text you on my next break. Make me a profile picture, 400 years, we're still here. And then I want everybody to put that as a profile picture all month on February. We're going to celebrate some Black history here. We're going to see how many people want to make a movement. We're going to do it. We're going to make a movement. So we'll be right back with y'all because we're at the 30-minute mark right here on Jazzabrations and Beyond here on this Sunday afternoon. And we'll be back with two of our guests that are visiting us from South Africa here for the Pan-African Film Festival.
All the way from home.
All the way from home. So we'll be right back.
All right.
You guys, welcome back. You see, I am surrounded by men today here on Jazzabrations and Beyond. I'm your host, Linda Morgan. Welcome back to the ride. Me and my host, Torre, are gotten comfortable. We have new guests. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Pastor Kevin Sauls and Oscar, thank you for joining us. You guys just jump right on in here. We're just going to chat it up. We know you're here from South Africa to visit the Pan-African Film Festival. Tell us a little bit about that and your reason for visiting.
Hello everyone, my name is Oscar Serrani, all the way from Pretoria, but originally I'm coming from a little village in another province in South Africa. I'm a village boy. Right. Reason for me to come to Pan-African Film Festival was one. There's a situation back home with distribution. Then we find out that a whole lot of youngsters are using their hard-earned money to develop films, but they get nowhere. They keep on losing money. So as a business person, I decided to come with a solution and say, go to the other side of the world, get to meet the similar-like people, minded people, and get to understand how we really cook this thing, how we really monetize these artworks, because we keep on losing the money and we don't get the right distributors. So it's more of coming and looking for great solution. It's more of coming to looking for where the world is heading, because we all believe when we're back in Africa that America is leading, especially with the likes of your Hollywood. So we like, can we copy some beautiful things that they're doing and start coming up with our own things. Because if I know someone from the other side of the world, then I expand my market. So mainly we are about that. The mission is to get to understand what is it that we're doing wrong and who can we talk to and how can we tailor-make our own winning solutions.
Absolutely.
Sounds
So
good.
you're connected with the right person here in the city over here to my right that's going to put you in.
African in America.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Tell him, Pastor Saul.
Good to be here, Linda, Torre. Thanks for having us. Really appreciate the work that both of you are doing throughout the year in terms of celebrating who we are. But then especially, focusing on who we are this month. And have enjoyed the conversation so far. It's been very, very enriching. And this is my favorite time of the year, which is the Pan-African Film Festival. Mm-hmm. Because, what it shows is just a global movement of people of African descent coming together to tell our story in our way, from our perspective, our vantage point, which the two of you know is critical and very, very important if we are to make sure that our story is told with integrity and it's told in such a way that it's not about embarrassment, but it's about empowerment. It's not about exploitation, but it's about education, and eventual liberation around that. So as I enter, this year it's a joy for me to have, my brother Tony Souls here, and he, is brought with him, one of his partners, and as you heard from Oscar, really, trying to look at ways that in South Africa, how can, black South Africans do the same thing there? Right. We may have had political liberation in South Africa, but we do not have yet economic liberation. Right. So there's still a strong hold in South Africa on a variety of economic, sectors, and financial sectors. And as Oscar mentioned, one of them, of course, is, not just production, but distribution. So we have people telling powerful and awesome stories, but we can't get it out there because the distribution, industry is monopolized by two or three, companies in terms of that. So we certainly African Americans have gone through that here. Right. Still in some ways are going through it. So it's good to have them here, and and this is the best time and the best spot to come and kind of just learn, observe, enjoy, connect, and have conversations, with folk about, what does it take, to be able to do that. So we're excited to be here and just looking forward to an ongoing, a productive and fruitful time here.
Now, isn't there something called Bollywood?
Okay, Bollywood is in India. And then, of course, you have another wood in Nigeria, which is called?
It's Nollywood.
Yes. But see, the thing about it is, and I'm a huge, like the two of you, advocate. I'm not an advocate of copying, all right? So nothing has to be whatever hood. Yeah. We just got to be our authentic selves, envision, our own things. Yeah. It's fine to study, best practices from somewhere.
Correct.
But what works here, in Hollywood or in Bollywood or in Nollywood might not work in South Africa. So how can, and this is what the Pan-African Film Festival is so good at, because you get to connect with folk in the African diaspora, from Brazil, from Central America, we have from Watts, and so you get to interact with these individuals, so they, can talk to you about, how to put the financial packages together, how to deal with distribution, all of that stuff. So it's fine, whatever we'll eventually call it in South Africa, something hood, but it doesn't have to be that.
Right.
I hope we at least will come up with an African name for it.
Yeah, I think we have enough.
So we
have enough hoods. I want to ask a question about distribution.
Yes.
We're living in a technological age right now.
Correct.
So we have the internet.
Correct.
We can communicate with people. We can all communicate with each other, no matter where we are.
Correct.
Right. How is the internet being looked at or utilized right now in your country as it relates to distribution of film product?
The challenge that we have back home is when you look into South Africa right now, the internet, it's way expensive.
Gotcha. So we need cost.
The regulators are not coming to the party. It's still being monopolized. So as a result, we are choked. So they have a system that it's really working smart against us. So our way in coming to such festivals is to network with fellow brothers on how best can we defeat this type of systems. Because it's no use to have a beautiful product that is going to stay in your shelves.
Right.
But we know the solutions right now. But people that have captured the market, they cannot afford to lose that.
Who is it that has captured the market? Who is it that's
your telecommunications companies?
Are these Europeans or Africans or
mainly that none of them are Africans. They are your Europeans, they are your big firms from America, but they are the people that calls the shots.
You know what? Do you guys know? Have you met a brother named Michael V. Roberts? Have you heard the name Michael V. Roberts? The Roberts brothers own telecommunication companies. And I believe he is doing some South African interchange right now. I'm going to connect you guys with him. Because if we need towers, that's what it sounds like, we need cell towers or telecommunication companies in South Africa, this is a billionaire brother who could possibly help and make that happen.
Wonderful.
So remind me before we get off the call, I will put you in connect with Michael V. Roberts. I know he and his brother owned telecommunication companies years ago. And if he still knows that technology and how to make it happen, then that would be at least a voice for you to be able to connect with.
I want to ask Pastor Sauls a question that's connected to the one I asked Brother Oscar. You mentioned that we're now struggling for economic parity, equality. How is that related to the political progress? That we agree that we've made political progress in South Africa. Isn't it necessary or isn't it critical that once we achieve political power, that leads to economic power, empowerment, and freedom?
Yeah, not necessarily, but it is essential for that to take place because no democracy can function with an economic system that is backward and, for the most part, that is capturing the future by way of flashbacks. And so right now, the South African economy is still based on trickle-down economics. During the apartheid era, it was trickled down by way of racial class, right, or race.
Yes.
And now, of course, it is about who has access to capital. And
be they black or white.
Yes. So right now, we in South Africa, we have not started the economic revolution.
Nope.
You see, so South Africa, even though we have one of the most progressive constitutions, we are still trying to fund the implementation of that constitution with an economic system, that is top down, that's trickle down, and we all know trickle down didn't work here. It ain't gonna work in South Africa, especially given the underclass that apartheid has created. So you have folk who have been shut out, and they continue to be shut out, and so there has to be an economic revolution that has to take place in South Africa. And you and I know it's fine to talk about rights, human rights and civil rights and all of that. But once you hit the checkbook and once you talk about equity, once you talk about equal distribution, parity, then folk get a little crazy and all of that. But to realize the dream of a democratic, and a free South Africa, you must transform that economic system.
Right. I want to apologize for that phone thing.
Okay. We'll figure it out.
Sorry, we'll figure it out.
But yeah, so there is a the disparity going on. So I mean, this is great to even help our listening audience even understand what is transpiring around film distribution.
Correct.
And issues that you guys are having even in South Africa today.
Correct.
And so if there's any way that any of our listening audience, if you got some connections to some serious money funders, decision makers that could help in helping to build what we need in South Africa. George Frazier always says to me, we have everything that we need but us. Mm-hmm. We don't help ourselves enough to get to what we need.
Correct.
So if we all reach out to other people, you never know who can help or who can make decisions, but you have to network. That's what he teaches.
Yes.
You have to be able to network to find out who is that connection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Something I want us to grapple with, and that is, as we celebrated Dr. King last week,
yes,
we all know that his image has been thwarted here in America as one who had a dream.
Yes.
But that very speech was really about economic empowerment.
It was.
It was about us going and getting out a check.
Blank check, bro.
The blank check. So he was really talking about something beyond civil rights and even human rights. It was all a part of the struggle for human rights is economic parity. And we know that the Africans that were enslaved and brought here to the Americas were used as economic tools. So it's always been about economics. This is not a new discussion we're having here. We just happen to be talking about film.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the fact that we've always been utilized, and someone now comes into South Africa and is controlling, just as we've experienced here in America, controlling the means of production.
Correct.
In terms of our art. So,
yeah, I mean,
that's a huge topic to deal with.
I mean, again, first and foremost, Dr. King never named that speech.
Right.
That speech was named for him by mainstream media.
Right.
It was named the I Have a Dream speech.
Teach.
And that was very, very strategic because they wanted us to focus on a dream.
Right.
All right? Whether it was a daydream or dreaming at night.
Right.
But
you're still asleep.
You're still asleep, you see, in terms of that. And you're right, Torre, that speech was about, equity. It was about, and it's the same thing in South Africa. Apartheid was not just, about, a race. Right. Apartheid was also an economic structure, and that economic structure is still in place. The players may have changed, but that structure is still in place in terms of, who owns, 90 to 95% of the economic power in South Africa. Right. It's still owned by whites, right. And so it's critical for us to realize the importance. Equity is a transformative and a liberative growth model, in terms of that. And so we have to read the whole speech, but not just that. All right. We also have to read the first speech that took place on that march. You see, that first speech was made by, of course, one of our, famous labor leaders who helped organize, the march. You see, so I always encourage people, if you want to, understand Dr. King's speech, at the March in Washington and read the entire speech, you also have to go and read A. Philip Randolph's speech that he made because he started, he didn't make any bones, but of course he came from a labor perspective, in terms of that. Well, those two speeches, bookending that historic march, is critical for us to understand what the real message was of that march in Washington.
It was actually his concept. He wanted to do that march in the 1940s. We have a huge, picture to look at when we talk about film and everything and how we get our films out there. So, but it's great that you guys are here, physically here to meet people.
Right, because the first thing starts with networking. Networking to find the people who can connect the dots.
Correct.
And that's what we need to connect the dots to find out how do we go. Because even if we got a roadblock, George always says that's the struggle. Without a struggle, you have nothing, no obstacle.
Correct.
But there's ways to go around, over, underneath the struggle.
Sounds like getting around a wall, huh?
That's right. That is such
That wall
a funny,
ain't going to work. We know how to get around a wall.
that is a crazy thing. Somebody said, why don't you just put a ladder and just walk over the wall? That's just all
Just
kind
get
of
on the
crazy.
airplane and fly into the airport.
But you know what I'm saying? And that's one thing about the 400 years. We have survived 400 years worth of BS. We're still here. I mean, if they really tried to extinct us, we wouldn't be here. So we are survivors, and we will survive this as we continue to survive other things. We just need to connect the dots to make it happen. And that's what, and I love about his program, See a Man, Be a Man. He teaches these young men, he gives them 9 principles. Every month they're building on these principles. Without them having the full 9 months and the principles, they don't have that end result to get to. And my son has been with Black Male Youth Academy for 4 years. And I'm going to talk to D'Artagnan about it, because after now seeing his program and being a part of it, I see now what Aaron, my son, Morgan, could have obtained so much more than sitting on my floor playing that game. So he's in his 12th grade year. He's 18 now, and I'm saying, boy, you better get off of that game, because now I'm not feeding you. I'm not doing anything. But his program would have prepared him better, I see, for this transition of life in seeing a man and being a man.
Well, that's why I asked about, I want to, respect your thing about the looking for solutions right now.
Right.
We have young people right now into a tech portion of our program. Where they're learning coding, they're learning web design, they're learning how to communicate via the internet in a different way, a meaningful way, that has some kind of means to an end. In terms of their economic life. You can make money even if they don't go to college.
Correct.
There are ways to make money and take care of your family. You just have to be creative. And we are the most creative people on this planet.
On the planet.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I know as we talk, I wanted to ask you guys, what do you see as a solution to the problem that you're confronted with in terms of...
I think number one will be the power of collaboration. Get to deal with people that don't have the same problem with you. Because it's not like the skill is not there.
Right.
The energy is there, too much of it. The skill is there. The only thing we don't have is the platforms. Then the reason why you need to go outside that little box and maybe operate from a bit outside where it's much cheaper and affordable, then you can meet the right audience that you need.
Right.
I mean, right now here, I believe that we've got about 6 production companies that are here at Pan-African Film Festival from South Africa.
Oh, beautiful.
And all of them, most of them, they are well known back home. But you must see how our artists are dying poor back then. It's about the ownership, because they give us raw deals, and we cannot keep that thing as usual. Somehow you're going to have to change it somewhere.
Right.
The how part, it's still the thing that we need to figure it out. Hence, we're saying, before you go and invest your hard-earned money into this thing, can you get the business case first? Don't go into production before you can get the proper systems that will help you to monetize on your product. So we cannot keep on repeating the same mistakes. So we'd rather think differently. You can be busy as you like, but if this thing is not going to sell, then you're playing with fire. Rather find the solution and go and produce something that you know exactly who I'm going to connect this with. Hence, we're coming in here.
Right. And do you guys have a collaboration, the cooperation with most of the South African filmmakers, or are you guys fighting with each other at home too?
It's more of we know the people that if you partner with them, then your product is going to be shown. It's going to be given that preference. it's still coming back to this, maybe your skin color. It's still coming from the people that have been doing it for years. What about the little ones that are coming out of the varsities? Because they've studied your films, your radios, and everything. Hence, we're saying in South Africa, we're living in a world where everything looks beautiful from outside. Simply because every year, people are graduating, but where are we going to plug these people so that they can practice?
Yeah, so you may want to share a little bit about what your company is planning to do to kind of see how we can fill the gap.
And what do you
I
need?
believe in standing in the gap. It's one of my favorite scriptures. So I know that that you guys are looking at some opportunities to see how we can fill in the gap with some of the projects that you guys have worked with, including around the film school.
For instance, we felt like if we can have a filming university that is teaching differently, never about the theory, but about the practical work. Because when we all left the filming schools, we were a bit naive. We thought it's a beautiful world, up until you need to buy a proper bread. And having that degree or diploma, it's not helping. So all of us, we thought, okay, how best can I change this situation? So the company I'm working with, which is mine, our own, it's called Battalion Media. We're 15 years. I started working with the commercial and corporate. But the love has always been to become a filmmaker. Then we shot 2 or 3, collaborating with other people. The whites, to be specific. It's much easier to do with the whites. But your stories, it's never about them. You want to do your own stories. And how do I build, I'll give you an example. How do I build a story about the kings of Africa? If you build beautiful stories, where are you going to plug them? Because it's about, if you are all about hope, to say, these queens and kings that we all read about, they need to be seen.
Right.
And you know for a fact that no one is going to give an opportunity to plug these beautiful stories into their platforms. So as a youth, then we decided to build our own things. But our own things needs a whole lot of resources that we don't have.
Or the resources find money?
Money.
Okay, we just need to find people with money then.
We need people
we
with
need
money.
That's what we need.
We need people
money
with
is
money.
the solution.
Yes.
Strategic investments.
Right. So you need some strategic investments, strategic investors to believe in what's going on in South Africa.
Proper.
We got it. Y'all, we got about 1 minute to get out of here, but I've got you. I listen very well. My mind is already churning when I get off my phone. I cannot wait to
make some phone calls and
make some
send
phone
some
calls.
emails out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of our lack of economic development is a reason why a lot of things don't happen for us.
Correct.
And if we decide to connect more together, because we have everything that we need in each other, but we choose and fail to make that connection.
Well, we're making a great connection right now.
Correct.
And the other thing that is super important, like you mentioned, the internet. Imagine if Africa start trading Africans with Africans. Because in South Africa, we are about 56 million. But in South Africa...
I know it, I'm sorry.
In South Africa, we are about 56 million people. But imagine if we do business as Africans, then we have a system that will just give us those numbers. Because the game we're in, it's about the numbers as well. If I deal with someone in Nigeria, then I deal with the community of Morocco, then I deal with Ghana, I deal with Tanzania, I deal with my next door neighbors, Zimbabwe and Botswana. Then we can take this thing up. Right. So they've made a system that works. An African child is working like an African child. So we just have to break those barriers. Yeah. The reason why we've got this type of movements, and we love them now. We love them simply because when you meet another guy from Morocco, you feel like you have a brother here.
Right. Who's come from Morocco?
When we are home, it's not like that.
Right. Gotcha.
But when we are here, we went to watch a beautiful show from a brother in Ghana. So you feel like you're supporting a fellow brother. So it's that mindset that we need as African childs. Right. To start embracing.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. So
ooh, this is. You know what? I know the festival ends on the 18th. Why don't we? My next show is on the 17th. That Sunday before the festival ends. let's take part 2 of this. We'll be back, y'all, next week on part 2 of the Pan-African Film Festival. And we're going to, everybody, I will put it out there, we're going to have resources. I want people that can come to the table with finances, and let's talk about helping this solution in South Africa.
Yeah, we need that Oprah money in Africa.
That's right. Until next week, this is Jazzabrations.
More than the school.
And beyond, I thank my guests, Pastor Sauls and Oscar. Part 2 of this, because this is so good, y'all. We'll be right back with y'all. Tell a friend next Sunday, 3 to 4. I'm going to, I got to get off the phone because y'all know me. My mind is going and everything is racing. Till next week, we'll be right with you.
All right. Peace.
In a sentimental mood, I can see the stars.